Hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to Gurukul Lectures. Let us go on to a journey of land plants, the journey of transition from aquatic habitat to a terrestrial habit. I am Dr. Kumar Shantanu from Department of Botany, Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi. Today we will get introduced by a unique set of plant groups which are termed as archegoniates. Archegoniates represent a diverse range of morphology, structure and physiology. So let us get started with our acquaintance with archegoniates. The term archegoniates is used for a higher taxonomic group that indicates those embryophytes having a female sexual organ in the form of an archegonium. Archegonium is a structure which is present as a female sexual organ. The term archegoniaty was for the first time used by Ivan Nikolaevich Gorozhankin way back in 1876. He used this term archegoniaty to indicate a division of plants which included bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperm. He deliberately secluded angiosperms which has a more complex female organ, and he termed them as gynoecietae. Archegoniates have archegonium as a common essential feature. Archegonium is a vase shaped multicellular structure or organ of the gametophyte phase of certain plants, which produces and contain a single ovum or female gamete retained within the base of an organ. The gametophyte is one phase of the plant body which is essentially haploidic in nature. Amongst the gametophyte, at one of the places in the apical region, there lies a structure called as archegonium. Archegonium is a tubular structure which is swollen at the base. The swollen base is also termed as venter, and the tubular structure up ahead is termed as neck. The neck has a tubule which contains stack of cells, also termed as neck canal cells. In the center of this swollen structure, which we call as venter, lies a single cell, also called as egg cell. Egg cell represents the female gamete of the plant body. Archegoniates seem to have originated from a monophyletic group of ancient stock of aquatic green algae. As you can see in this cladogram, the green algae have been shown as the ancestor of all the embryophytes. The embryophytes include vascular plants also, non-vascular plants also. The closest relative of this green algae happens to be the liverworts and mosses. Amongst the green algae, the group Charophyceae is supposed to be or has been found to be the closest ancestor of all the land plants. Let us understand what are various features, the general characteristics which are possessed by this huge group, which we call them as archegoniates. Archegoniates essentially has a presence of sexual organs. The female sexual organs are called as archegonia and the male sexual organs are called as antheridia. Individual sex organ of male are termed as antheridium, whereas individual female sex organ is termed as archegonium. Antheridia is generally a globose or oval shaped structure attached to the plant body with the help of a basal stalk. Basal stalk is nothing but an aggregate of parenchymatous cell which acts as a connecting link between the main plant and the whole structure of antheridia. Antheridia has a globose sterile jacket Encapsulating this sterile jacket lies numerous spermatids. Spermatids gradually, after metamorphosis, gives rise to spermatozoids. Spermatozoids happens to be motile and flagellated in nature, and they swim towards the female sex organ to fertilize egg cell. Similarly, archegonium is a long, slender, flask-shaped structure. The basal part is termed as venter. Inside the venter, at the central position, is occupied by egg cells, and the long, slender, tubular structure is called as neck. The neck is covered at the tip by a specialized group of cells called as cover cells. Archegoniates do have a presence of chloroplast. In this chloroplast, we can find chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and carotene. The presence of chlorophyll A, B, and carotene has given an essential advantage to this group of plants by making them able to harvest a huge range, a larger range of visible light. As you can see in this absorption spectrum, the absorption maxima of chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and carotene lies between 400 to 500 nanometer. This range is also the range of high energy visible lights. This high energy visible light ensures that the efficiency of photosynthesis is enhanced. The presence of these pigments, chlorophyll A, B, and carotene, enables these plants to harvest the light which is also available at a higher energy level. When plants ventured from water habitat to terrestrial land, they get exposed to direct sunlight. Getting exposed to direct sunlight also expose them to higher energy visible range. The presence of carotene and chlorophyll B especially encouraged these land plants to harvest the higher energy light sources. Another common feature of archegoniate is the presence of multicellular gametophytic and sporophytic generation. The presence of these gametophytic and sporophytic generation is very much common amongst the archegoniates. The sporophyte happens to be a diploidic generation. This sporophyte gives rise to haploid spores after meiotic division. Haploid spores after mitotic division gives rise to megagametophytes or microgametophytes. Gametophytes are haploid in nature. Gametophytes which bear female sex organ are termed as megagametophytes, whereas those gametophytes which are carrying male sexual organs, they are called as microgametophyte. Megagametophyte and microgametophyte respectively gives rise to female gametes and male gametes. After fertilization, the zygote is formed. Zygote happens to be the first cell of sporophyte generation. Zygote after mitotic division gives rise to embryo, and the embryo further gives rise to sporophyte plant body, and thus the whole life cycle is completed and they alternate with each other with sporophytic and gametophytic generation. The other common feature of this alternation of generation is their heteromorphic nature. This alternation of generation is always heteromorphic in all the land plants. What is heteromorphic alternation of generation? The heteromorphic alternation generation is the one which has sporophyte and gametophyte generation morphologically dissimilar. The sporophytic and gametophytic generation also differ from each other in terms of their structure and in terms of their physiology. When zygote gives rise to sporophyte, they have a distinct morphology. It is followed by the formation of meiosis and production of spores. These spores mitotically gives rise to gametophytic generation. Gametophytic generation is essentially multicellular, and also their morphology differs in a very different manner from the sporophytic plant. And gametophyte further gives rise to gametes after mitotic division. We will also observe that as and when we move from primitive land plant towards more recent land plant, the morphological reduction of the sexual or the gametophytic phase takes place, and it is very much evident in the life cycle of Archegonietes. Here in this cladogram, we can very well see that liverworts are one of the most primitive land plants to occur on terrestrial habit. They are the groups which for the first time ventured onto the land. They belong to group Bryophyta. Bryophytes are also termed as the amphibians of land plant. As we move from the primitive land plants towards more recent land plants, that is pteridophytes and gymnosperms, we will observe that out of the two generations of sporophyte and gametophyte, the gametophytic generation gradually reduces. What happens here? If we will observe the life cycle of bryophytes, the whole life cycle is predominated by the gametophytic plant generation. The gametophytic plant generation progresses throughout maximum part of their life cycle. The gametophytic generation also produces male sex organ and female sex organ, which in turn produces sperm cells and egg cells. Post fertilization, the sporophyte generation is formed. In bryophytes, we will observe that sporophyte generation is represented by a very small duration of the life cycle. The sporophytic phase stays in a very small span during the entire life cycle. For example, in case of Rixia, the sporophytic phase is represented by a small globular structure which is embedded inside the gametophyte, and within the sporophyte there are the presence of meiotic spores. These spores again represent the gametophytic generation. Thus, the whole sporophytic generation is represented by few cells of sporophyte. As we move from bryophyte, that is liverworts, towards hornworts and towards mosses, we will find that sporophytic generation is now much prominent. The sporophytic generation is represented by a long slender capsule. It is represented by a foot and a seta. But still, the sporophytic generation is nutritionally dependent upon the gametophytic generation. As we move from bryophytes towards more recently evolved pteridophytes, we will observe that the proportion of gametophytic phase and the proportion of gametophytic phase and sporophytic phase is almost equal. The gametophytic phase in pteridophytes is represented by the leafy ferns, the gametophytic phase is represented by a small prothallus, whereas the sporophytic phase in pteridophytes is represented by the leafy ferns. Here, the time duration spent in gametophytic phase and sporophytic phase during the life cycle is almost same. But as we further move on to the more recent archegoniates, that is gymnosperms, we will observe that the gametophytic phase is much reduced. The gametophytic phase is represented by 3 to 4 celled structures. In case of gymnosperms, the pollen grain, which is 3 to 4 cell structure, is the male gametophyte. So here the male gametophyte is confined to only 3 to 4 cells. Similarly, the female gametophyte is represented by 5 to 6 cell structure, which is present inside a female cone. So as we progress from primitive land plants towards more recent land plants, we will observe that the gametophytic phase has gradually reduced in terms of their morphology, and the larger part of life cycle is predominated by the sporophytic generation. One more very important feature which we will be able to see during the life cycle of any archegoniety is the provision of protection to the embryos, is the provision of a jacketed layer over the embryos. The embryos are the first stage of any sporophytic generation amongst archegoniates. When plants ventured from aquatic habitat to a more dry land towards terrestrial habitat, they started experiencing adverse conditions. They started experiencing desiccation of water. They started experiencing evaporation of water. They have also experienced more exposure towards sunlight. So it was very necessary for the plants to develop a mechanism through which the spores could be protected, and this happened with the development of a jacket layer. The jacket layer around the spores along with this whole structure is termed as sporangium. Now for the first time, the advent of this organ which we call as sporangium has happened in archegoniaty. Sporangium is a structure which contains spores. These spores could be of similar size. If they are of similar size, they are called as homosporous species, and the sporangium is termed as homosporous sporangium. As evolution took place and more complicated, more complex body organization evolved, heterospory also came into the picture. So in heterosporous species, the microspores and the megaspores both are encapsulated by a jacketed layer. This jacketed layer, also termed as the sporangium, provided enough protection from desiccation, from light, and also from wind. It also ensured that the dispersal of these spores could take place at the right time, at the time when the environment is conducive for their germination. Because as we see ahead in our further lecture, we will see that dispersal was also dependent on these protective layers. In case of gymnosperms, this degree of protection further enlarged. The female gametophyte is protected by multiple layers of tissues. These multiple layers of tissues are termed as integuments. The common feature which is shared by all the archegoniates is the presence of motile male gametes. Here in the screen you could see on the right hand side different types of flagellated motile male gametes, also termed as spermatozoids. The first diagram is of the spermatozoid of Palea. The diagram B represents the spermatozoid of Conocephalum, both of them being bryophytes. Diagram C represents the spermatozoid of Equisetum, and diagram D represents the spermatozoid of Ceratopteris. Now here we can see that doesn't matter which group the plant belongs to. All the different Archegonia, they have motile and flagellated sperms, whereas the female gamete, that is egg, is always non-motile and it is present in a structure which is termed as Archegonia. Inside the Archegonia, they are present at the base and they are absolutely non-motile. It is the function of these flagella, these motile sperms move with the help of some medium, sometimes a fluid or sometimes through air, and reach to the tip of the Archegonia and further move downwards to fertilize the non-motile egg cells. This process of fertilization is very much dependent on an external agent. As we have seen, Archegoniaceae is a conglomeration of three distinct groups of plants, that is bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms. The mechanism of fertilization differ in these three groups. In case of bryophytes, as you can see in this diagram, the male sex organ, that is Entheridia, produces spermatozoids, and these spermatozoids are mostly formed on separate gametophytes. Most of the bryophytes are dioecious in nature. So, the male gametophyte produces Entheridia. These Entheridia produces antherozoids, whereas the female gametophyte produces Archegonia. Inside the Archegonia lies the non-motile egg cell. The motile sperm cells start moving with the help of some external medium. In case of bryophytes, this external medium is a watery fluid. So, to complete the life cycle of a bryophyte species, there is an essentiality of water. Without the availability of water, there will be no movement of spermatozoids, and thus the process of fertilization would not take place. So, this process of fertilization is absolutely dependent on the availability of water. Perhaps this is one of the reasons bryophytes are also termed as amphibians of the plant world. Upon reaching to the tip of Archegonia with the help of some watery fluid, these spermatozoids move all the way through the archegonial neck and fertilize the egg cells. Upon fertilization, egg cells gives rise to the first diploid cell, that is zygote. These zygotes then mitotically divide and gives rise to embryo. Embryo formation is for the first time experienced and seen amongst the land plants. Because of this reason also, all the Archegoniaceae plants have been grouped under Embryophyta. So, for the first time, embryos are developed, and these developing embryos have given rise to a sporophytic plant. Now, it is worth mentioning here that sporophytic plant is absolutely dependent nutritionally on the gametophytic plant. The basal portion is still the gametophyte, and on top of this gametophyte lies a long slender structure which is called as seta, and at the tip of the seta is your globose structure called as capsule. Now, the sporophyte is represented by foot, long slender seta and capsule, which is nutritionally dependent upon the gametophyte. These capsules are the positions where spores are formed meiotically. These spores are then further released and they give rise to gametophytes. In case of pteridophytes, the proportion of sporophytic generation and gametophytic generation is almost equal. In case of pteridophytes, the gametophyte or the gametophytic generation is termed as prothallus. It is almost an undifferentiated mass of cells. These prothallus are generally dioecious in nature. So, the formation of female sex organ and the male sex organ takes place on the same prothallus. Here once again the Antheridia releases antherozoites, and the antherozoites are motile and they have a presence of flagella. This motile antherozoites once again require some medium to reach up to the tip of archegonia and finally reach up to the egg cell. Here in case of pteridophytes also, the medium which is available for movement of antherozoites is a watery fluid. So, pteridophytes also are dependent on water for the completion of their life cycle. But in case of gymnosperms, if you could see, the process of fertilization is almost independent of any role of direct watery fluid. The sporophyte generation is a predominant phase in the life cycle of gymnosperms. The sporophytes have male cones and female cones. The male cone produces pollen grains. These pollen grains are 3 to 4 cell structures. They are the one which are the representatives of male gametophyte, whereas the female gametophyte bears ovules which represent female gametophyte. These pollen grains reach up to the neck of archegonia and they germinate with the help of pollen tubes. So, here the process of fertilization is assisted with the help of wind. Wind allows the dispersal of these pollen grains, and pollen grains germinate with the help of pollen tube. The process is called as siphonogamy and the fertilization takes place. So, as we have seen that there are different methods of fertilization in bryophytes also, pteridophytes also and gymnosperms also. Thank you so much.